of Empower. If it's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we're here every day. So happy to have two of my, just admired colleagues on LinkedIn. Had the opportunity to speak both with Lorraine and Christopher, who's coming right back, had a little technical issue. Chat's open. We depend on chat to direct us, make us as relevant as we can, hopefully provide some quality takeaways. So with that said, let me introduce Lorraine Duncan to you. And Lorraine can give a little context on who she is and what her initial thoughts on speaker. Lorraine?
Hi, everyone. So I'm new to this show here, and I'm really glad to be here. And a little bit about me. I guess that's what you want me to do.
Sure.
So a little bit about me is that Lorraine Duncan. I own a digital marketing agency called BizGone Social. I have a weekly 3 podcasts, and I love to help people with their LinkedIn and social media. So that's me in a nutshell. When I'm not doing BizGone Social, I love spending time with family and friends. That's probably the most important thing about who I am and what I do.
Well, that's terrific. And what's your initial thoughts on speaking?
Speaking, that's an open topic. I think that is if you're a business owner and you have a service or a product, I think that speaking is a very good channel to do that. And just make sure that when you are speaking that you are engaging with your audience and you're interesting and not boring.
Okay, well, that's a good insight for people to appreciate. So, what got you into speaking?
I actually started speaking when I started doing presentations through SCORE. And then I actually got a few other speaking engagements. And then I joined a mastermind on speaking to help myself improve and be able to come up with a keynote speech and have a one sheet and all that. So probably started a little bit, maybe 2 years pre-COVID.
Okay, so what have you learned from all your speaking?
That it's really important to know who your audience is, because if you go into a place where you haven't taken the time to know the audience that's there, you're gonna have like deer staring at headlights at you. And so you really need to make sure that you have done your homework. Can I give an example?
Please.
Because it's a great example. So I was asked by a colleague of mine to come speak to their retired engineers group. And when I was sitting in the audience, I heard somebody say, "Social media? Facebook? What's that?" And I knew immediately that I was not in the right audience. So you just have to make sure. One other thing that I do though, if I have a time to engage the room beforehand, I do that. I engage, like I at the library, for instance, if I'm speaking at the library, if somebody comes in early before I go on, I go in, I meet them, and I say hello and learn a little bit about who they are and what they do.
Well, you also do a lot of altruistic activities to help others. So, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. I have spent probably about 11 years, 2 weeks a year in Belize, working on building an orphanage, building a church, actually doing helping people in their homes in the Belmopan area with fixing their homes up, and then teaching a VBS. And then my latest, a little bit pre-COVID too, because I haven't gone back since after COVID. I've been to Nairobi, Africa, and I've done leadership training to people from all over, from different tribes, from different cultures. It was amazing. And you always have, that's an interesting thing when it comes to speaking, because when you're teaching with a interpreter, things can go wrong really bad fast.
I bet. Well, that's fascinating. Maybe we'll get a little bit more into detail. Let me just recognize this great audience for the valuable benefits hopefully we bring. Oh, and here we have Christopher. Hi, Christopher. How you doing?
Yeah,
No, actually you look pretty good and you sound better.
yeah. I I could hear you guys, but it's like underwater.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought it would change, but it's the same here, even outside out of my office.
We hear
don't
you
think-
better. We
yeah,
hear you.
yeah, we hear you and you see it better. So you're,
Yeah, I can't really hear you guys very well. I can't even. Yeah, it's like underwater.
why don't you sign in and sign off once you settle down and see what that does?
All right.
The
I'll
other
try to
thing
get
is,
back.
are you using a headset or earpieces?
I'm using my phone right now. I was on my computer, but it's the same thing. I'm hearing like it sounds like both of you are underwater.
Huh.
Wow.
Well,
Well, maybe if you're stopped and parked somewhere and you put it on speaker, like not speaker on your car, but the regular phone speaker, it
Yeah,
will work.
let me try that. Let me try that.
Okay, let's see. How do I get it on my speaker here?
your voice never sounded better, to be honest.
Okay, now I can hear you guys. Now I can hear you.
Well, hey, Lorraine, there was a reason you were here today to keep Christopher
There
on.
you go. I was going through my Bluetooth on my car, but my computer had the same audio, so I don't know. It was weird, but I can hear you both now.
Well, great. So glad to have you. It's just in time. Lorraine gave a quick intro for context about her, and sorry you missed it because she does amazing things with orphanages.
Oh, I know. Lorraine and I know each other, so we know each other well.
Well, that's great. And that's why I chose speaker, because I know you both speak as the word of the day. And Christopher, why don't you share a little bit about your, situation, a little bit for context, and then your initial thoughts on speaker. But, I'm just fascinated both talking to Lorraine and Christopher, and what a small world it is, because I was mentioning Bob Berg's going to be here next Friday, and Christopher says he interacts with them, and Lorraine shakes her head.
Bob real well.
Yeah, so that should be quite an experience. Go ahead, Christopher.
Well, my name is Chris Salem. I'm a business acceleration strategist, also a professional keynote speaker. In terms of what I do is I work with individuals and helping them to work on their business, not in it. We help them to use the power of speaking to help grow and scale their business by speaking at leading industry B2B, B2C conferences, as well as corporations, including entrepreneurial events. But learning how to use the process of how to use it correctly to build rapport, create value, and then use that to increase revenue and net profit margin in your business. As a professional speaker, like I said, I speak at leading industry B2B, B2C conferences around the world, including corporations and also entrepreneurial events.
Well, that's terrific. So I asked Lorraine the same question. What got you into speaking?
Well, I had the bug about 30 years ago. I started in Toastmasters back in 1993. I credit them for helping me to eliminate my ahs and ums. I had spent most of my career up until about 13 years ago before I got into coaching in sales. So I got to really understand people. I ran sales teams, had my own media company. And as a result of it, I really understood how to influence, not persuade and convince people. So I was able to learn how to connect on shared values, knowing how to connect where people were, and got to what was really important to them. So my presentations were able to, empower them to draw their own conclusion to work with me and the product or service I was representing. So today I bring that in as a coach, working with organizations of anywhere from a small business to a mid-sized company, and helping them to do the same, working with either the CEO, or it could be the chief revenue officer, or the sales team. Like today, I'll be doing this same stuff with a company in Stamford, Connecticut, which Lorraine may know because she lives in the area, called AP Construction. So we'll be training their folks on the power of building winning presentations using a lot of the concepts that I'm sharing here with both of you today.
Well, that's terrific. I mean, being in sales the majority of my life, and I think everybody's in sales either directly or supporting someone in sales. there is an art to it when it's done properly, where it should be highly respected and admired, because it's not uh, selling on somebody, or from somebody. It's really providing greater value in an easy comparison that allows people to have a better alternative or a choice. And I think if it's obvious, then there's not a lot of persuasion necessary. It's a lot to do with packaging and presentation. So with that, before we swing it back to Lorraine, we got a healthy, interactive audience. Let me just run through. Kelly's here. Kelly's here for 9 months. She's here every Thursday, has the whole slot, and is primarily responsible for this show growing as well and maturing so well over time. So can't thank Kelly enough. Ashley's here, who actually goes by Petra, and she has a foundation to help a lot of people. So thank you, Ashley. Omar's here. I was just on Omar's show the other day. It was a fun show. Debbie's here, our butterfly lady. She is so full of enthusiasm. She's working on the monarch butterfly process down in Mexico, and is planting milkweed wherever she goes. Good morning, team. I'm eager to find new stages post-COVID for speaking on the power of one person's effort, early literacy, music, and movement. Monarch butterflies. Yep. Ashley comes back with, I can see your comment for sure. Great guest. Looks like I will learn a lot, Omar says. Elizabeth's here. Actually, Elizabeth is coming in tomorrow with Kelly. Finally, hi all. Great to see you. Popping in to say hello while on the road. But thank you. Beverly's here. Beverly's our Tuesday person. Wonderful therapist and coach up in Montreal. Good morning, team. Don't even go there. Me, Beverly were going through it for the first 12 minutes yesterday, and it finally worked. So I'm going to be checking out actually StreamYard too to see if they're having challenges. It's just kind of every day's a new day. Elizabeth says I did Toastmasters too, very helpful. I actually really enjoyed Toastmasters, and I'll say one thing. There's a little noise there, Christopher. But I did Toastmasters, and I found it to be a great organization for support, for people who could find people in their same situation, a lot of times with second language people trying to get better at speaking English. But yeah, great group. Good morning from a LinkedIn user. Carrie, I thought so. I saw a woman stocking cinnamon. I said, it looks like a Spice Girl. She looked at me. Anyways, Carrie's always here trying to bring a joke. Sometimes they're funnier than others. So with that said, Lorraine, what do you think now of what we're dealing with as far as the interaction with the audience? A couple of Christopher's thoughts and comments. What does this bring to mind?
It's pretty cool. I saw a question come through, and honestly, I lost it because it went through so fast, but they were wondering about some speaking stages, that you can talk on. And I honestly think that podcast is a great stage to, guest on people's podcasts. And it's a great way to get out there. So whoever asked that question, I'm sorry if I didn't remember. Oh, Debbie. Yes. Yeah. So that's what I would recommend too.
Okay.
Yeah, that with terms of speaking stages, I mean, what Lorraine said, podcasts are great because you could get on at any time. But I would really get clear on your market dominating position and your unique value proposition. When you can get really clear on the problem or challenge that you could help them get better or overcome, and the results that they seek they don't have, where is that audience? So if they're at a certain industry conference, maybe it's a certain industry and there's a conference, how do you get in there and build, learn the process to get booked to speak? Those are the things that I learned over my 23 years doing this. And then once you're able to get in there and you can get on, doesn't mean you're going to get on the first time. You might get denied. You might get rejected. But if you embrace the process, you will eventually, through perseverance, get in there. And I can tell you, once you get in there and you do a great job and you get a good review and you get invited to come back, that's where the gold is. That's where you could generate a lot of business, even from one industry. And I know for me personally, I've been doing this and I teach this in our speaker influencer program. I can recall one event over 7 years. I've been speaking every year there, and that one event has yielded a considerable amount of money because of the relationship and the rapport that I built with the audience. And it's about them. And when you can touch on the things that speak to their challenges that could be better, and that what the results that they're looking for that they can now have or see as possible, those are the things that can make a huge difference. And then you just replicate that with another industry that you could serve and repeat the process.
Yeah, that's excellent advice, and definitely built from experience. And the other thing is you got to look at how big the universe is and how much you can niche it. Because if you look at LinkedIn, there's 970 million people registered, not that only 20% do very much. And then if you pair that with right now we're live streaming on YouTube, that's even a bigger audience. So you usually get what you ask for. And if you can, and that's what I find about LinkedIn profiles, is why not state what you do for others and who they are, so that they can identify you, and the ones who don't align with you keep moving forward, right? You can either cast a wide net and filter for a long time, or be specific and have more pre-qualifying going on based on what it is you do for others. Too many people are sharing what they do, who they are. Well, that's not going to resonate if someone has 2 seconds at looking at a headline versus I help people do this, right? And so you always have to look at it from the other side. You know, people start with beginning action, but they want ending money at the beginning. You know, I mean, you got to be good enough to be good enough to get people to appreciate the value. So I think it's value creation. You know, I think to Christopher's point, you have to get known before you're needed, you know, and getting that exposure. In today's world, everybody by now on LinkedIn probably has the ability to do an audio event or a LinkedIn live event. You know, while you're waiting for someone to call, just start talking, you know, get on live and just start sharing your thoughts and ideas of the day. That's how I started. My first one a year ago was 8 minutes by myself. And before you know it, because no one else is doing it, anybody on live is going to get an audience. So I think it's, you know, build what you can through others when you can. In the meantime, start building on your own while you're waiting for others. So Lorraine, you know, it seems like proficiency goes a long way over time, whatever you're doing. What do you see yourself evolving more now than maybe in the past? In what areas?
Yeah, so what's really evolving is actually my podcast. I'm starting to get a lot of followers through that, a lot of connections through that. And really, what started out as me rambling by myself turned into me bringing other people on and really talking about them and bringing their story out and helping them with their business. So it's another, like, I love to give, I love to serve. So it's just, that's what's working for me right now. And in my agency, I just took on another service. I'm doing another service for my clients now. So who knows, when I retire, I'll probably still be podcasting and I'll still be remotely managing people's social media. So something, I guess I'm never going to retire.
Well, you know, in today's world, I don't know what retirement is. I mean, I actually did do that about 6 years ago. And, you know, it was fun. But when you're spending most of your life doing things, getting things done, you know, and really being defined by what you do as much as, you know, who you are, platforms like LinkedIn made it easier for someone who wasn't going to get on a plane 3 days a week or go into an office 5 or 6 days a week. But when you can just belly up to the desktop flipped a switch. And I think that's where people don't have enough confidence in themselves, is by just being themselves initially, right? Instead of trying to perform like someone they saw or someone they like. People like authentic, and especially if you're going to do it consistently over time, because why? There's a saying, time will either expose you or promote you, you know? And if you don't need much of a memory, if you're really saying things that are true to you and hopefully aligned with others. And the other element, I think, is respect for the audience. Without the audience, there's no us. And I knew, just like Lorraine, when I did it by myself the first time, I was the only one there, and I knew it, but I still had to do it in order to do it the next day to hope to find someone. But during those times, you're so bad, you're almost happy that no one's discovered you yet, because it gives you time to build a little bit. Christopher, how do you add to that?
Well, yeah, it's a process, and I'm a firm believer. One of the things I always advocate in my posts and when I'm sharing and consulting, mentoring, is you got to look at a business as a process, not as the outcome. Too many people are fixated on the outcome. It's good to have a vision of what you're looking to accomplish, but if you get caught up in the outcome, you're now getting caught up in the expectation of it. And that's going to put most of your energy into what you can't control, other situations, people, so on. But your process, it operates from intentions, not expectations. You can control your intentions through your communication to yourself and others, your behavior, that it's in alignment with your communication. So instead of being passive or aggressive in your communication, which are codependent, you could be assertive. You're more specific, clear, and concise with yourself and other people as the sender or the receiver. Your behavior is the same, assertive, not passive aggressive. And then your attitude, you can control that. It's happening for you, not to you. You see challenges and obstacles as opportunities to grow and expand. Without them, you become stagnant, complacent, and bored and create problems. Emotions, how you can now respond to these situations and people rather than react to them. That's going to show that you're a great leader and taking your business where you are and where you desire to go. And then finally, your action. You can control that. You can't control that in other people and situations, but you can control that in yourself. And that is what the process will lead you to, is those results when you commit to it each and every day in the moment from intentions rather than expectation. At least from my experience and the businesses I've studied and worked with that have made that paradigm shift to see better results long term.
Perfect. Lorraine, what could you add to that?
I keep on thinking about, the value you give to your audience, or the value you give anywhere where you're speaking. And Chris always mentions the value. And I think that if you are speaking anywhere and you're not giving value, or even if you're blogging or writing or whatever you're doing, then you even have to rethink that. So that's the only thing I can really add to that. He said it all.
Well, I think together, I hopefully a picture is developing for people that, today, and the beauty, because I've done this 365 days in a row almost, is the incremental benefit you get by growing together, right? When you're going to be together, and 90% plus of these people on the side are here every day too, right? So it's not a new audience, it's a maturing audience with the people who are here, and an evolving audience for the people that get attracted here. But the benefit of this is that you get interactive feedback immediately when you're talking. Right? If you're talking to 100 people or 10,000 people, you're primarily the projector then, right? Because you're there and you're, unless you're answering questions or making it more interactive. But the knowledge share between 40, 50 people throwing ideas and thoughts around where everybody gets to feel them, try them on, and see them. And plus, it's a place where you can learn a little bit every day and not have to grab all you can because it's one and done, or you won't see that for a long time. So, in the now, and I think that's what Christopher touched on also, is all you have to do is focus on what you have to do next, right? If you keep focused on what you have to do next, where today's a little bit better than yesterday, but not as good as tomorrow's going to be, the score will take care of itself, right? If you're present and you're focused and you use everybody around you as a polishing wheel, to lean into, and then get that genuine feedback to kind of make you, evolve a little bit more. So before I switch it back to Christopher, let's hit the comments again. Elizabeth, I did Toastmasters too. Very, very helpful. Beverly comes back. It's all about connecting. Nothing like stories to help connect us. People are people, and what works for you works for them, right? The difference is who's going first and who's being more proactive. We covered that. Natalie's here, great artist. I don't know if you see her post, but she puts some of the most wonderful looking paintings up. This is a great start. For my husband and I were discussing the exact topic this morning. Great. Here we go with Dennis. Dennis is here all the time. He's always a rhymer. Has a heating and cooling business for 48 years in Denver. Stanford is great town. I went to Rippewan High School, and we got high and ripped well together back then in the old days. Well, I don't have to tell too much. Debbie Clement is on my podcast, which dropped today. Thank you, Beverly. Listening to Aging with Purpose and Passion. This week on Apple, Spotify, check my profile. You're here, there. She's so much fun. Yeah, Debbie's been here like 5 times. Actually, Rita Wirtz connected me with Debbie, so nice reach out to that. Leslie Flowers is here pretty much every Saturday. She does Think and Grow Rich live event on Fridays and Mind Over Matter audio event on Mondays. Great to see you. Address audience challenges. Thank you, Christopher. Ashley says, soon I will have my own show. I love reaching others on a one-on-one basis. Debbie comes back with, I'm on Beverly because of, okay, thank you, Debbie, because of Rita. I just mentioned Rita. LinkedIn has created valuable links indeed. Let me go to Leslie. I expect my results, absolutely. I intend them and focus daily on them. Leslie says, once I have a goal, the result is created right then. And then finishing up here with Kevin Kelly. Haven't seen you in the past, but welcome. With that, Lorraine, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I loved what Beverly said, about connecting and telling stories. And I think that, especially in today's world, there's so much being thrown at us. I think it's so important that when you are connecting, that you do tell stories to connect. And I think there's nothing that engages an audience more that when you resonate, a certain story resonates with someone. So that's all I want to add.
That's great. Christopher?
Well, yeah, I'll just elaborate what Lorraine said because I can't see all the questions because I'm on my phone. But I love what was brought up about connection and storytelling, because here's the reality. Whether if you're speaking one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many, and speaking allows you to do that either way. That's the power of speaking and how it can dramatically grow your business. It's not about telling people like how, when, or why to do it. Everyone doesn't want to be told how, when, why to do it. No one wants to be sold. But people like when people share. When you can share, you're sharing an experience. You're sharing a moment. You're sharing a case study. You're sharing a story. And now you're inviting that person or people into the experience, whatever experience they're going to have with that content. And whatever experience they have, that's what they remember. They will remember maybe some of the story, all of the story. It might be one word. It might be a sentence, but what they're going to remember the most is the way that they felt as part of that experience. That's what's powerful as a speaker that you can create at any given moment, whether, like Lorraine said, about on a podcast, if it's your own podcast, if you're on you have your own radio show or podcast. I know I do on my 2 radio shows, even with my guests. And then anytime when you're speaking one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many, it's the consistency. That's what's going to build rapport. It's going to build your brand. And it's going to more likely people, when they work with you, they're working with you because you made them feel a certain way. You got into the root cause of what could be better in terms of their challenge. And now you've given them hope to the results that they seek that they don't have. And they trust you as the trusted advisor to help them move you forward.
Yeah, those are wonderful points. And, there is something to repetition making reputation. And, the more people see you, the more people feel you, the more trusting they become. And, it's not just proactive with taking the first initiative. It's being proactive for expressing yourself in a way that you want to duplicate through the audience, with the audience, because, everybody waits for someone to do something in a lot of ways before they do something or do something more ambitiously. And that's why even putting the first comment out is like a tip jar, because nobody wants to be the first one for whatever it is. They just don't want that exposure or whatever. And I think it's, how do you make people comfortable enough that they can hear your story and feel your story, right? So many people are so distracted and all over the place, they forget what they just say. How many people ask you, what they just say? What did I miss? And it wasn't the person who said it. It was the person who wasn't in the moment and didn't have a reason for being there, and that's a key question, is why? Why does this audience show up today? What made my time or this time valuable enough that they exchange what they typically would do? And if you always look at yourself in debt to the people who come to support you, they'll feel that too, but when a person gets to an elite level, right, where there's more separation, more distance between them and the group. I love this show because there's 50 people here. I feel we're 3 among the circle of 50 instead of 3 talking to 47, and if everybody has value, which I do believe, and everybody definitely has their story, which is definitely important to them, how much grace do we offer people without judgment to help them have a voice and be heard and do it in a safe, supportive environment? Let me just cover a couple comments. Natalie comes back with, if a person wants to begin with in-person speaking engagement and not go the route of podcast, what do you recommend? Well, that's a good question, Lorraine.
Yeah, there's one of the things I recommend is there's a lot of speaking agencies out there that you can go through. There's a great person on LinkedIn that actually can help you with that. Her name is Anastasia Lipsky. She does that. And she's great at getting guests for people on shows. Another way is just to start out small and, maybe a local library talk, a Chamber of Commerce talk, or a Rotary talk, those type of things. They actually get you started, and then other people then see you speak and they want to have you out to their group. So that's another way.
Excellent. Christopher?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of it in person, as Lorraine said, if you're just starting out and you haven't, start local, start with, a library, chamber event, that type of thing. But one thing I do want to cite is that if you're going to get, go up to the speaker bureau level, speaker agent, I have 4 speaker bureaus that represent me, but you can't rely upon a speaker bureau or an agency. And if you haven't built up enough rapport or experience speaking, either at major entrepreneur events, major industry events, more than likely a speaker agent or a bureau is not going to represent you anyway. So again, you think of it like a business broker. They're going to broker the business that is more likely to sell or get most attention. You're going to be one of thousands of people that they could be representing, depending upon who it is. So the best way to get booked is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the process of how to get booked, you'll get more engagements that way. Even to this day, I get people reaching out because I've been doing it a long time, and I do have a speaker agent. I do have a speaker bureaus, but I still 85% of my placements are through me.
Mm-hmm.
If I relied upon those agencies, no. So you gotta know how to work the system. It is work, but I can tell you with the right strategy, I call it an influence strategy. We teach that in Speaker Influencer. If you can now create a blueprint and now, again, each day from intentions and work each day, even in small pockets of time, an hour a day, that's it. You can start opening up new opportunities, and it takes one opportunity to open up another one, then another. It's called connecting the dots, and there you go. So I remember I spoke for Oracle in March. Now people ask me like, well, how'd you get into Oracle? Did you know somebody? Did you call? Did you just call them? I wish it was that easy, but no. It started 6 years ago, and they said 6 years ago. I said, yeah, I spoke at a industry conference. I had a CEO of a major tech company come up. We started talking. We started talking on Skype. This was before Zoom kind of took off. And then I started doing executive coaching with him for about 5-6 months. Then we went our separate ways. I didn't really talk to him that much other than here and there for a year and a half. That led him to reaching back out. He was the CEO of a major tech company. He started a Touch of Life Foundation, TAL Radio, which launched from that. He asked me to kick off a business influencer podcast from it, which was now another one because I already had another show. I started doing it. They covered all the costs, did everything. And lo and behold, who was listening to my show? People from Oracle. Now that would have never happened if I didn't meet this gentleman. See? And then I was invited to do the keynote for World Kindness Day at the Santa Clara Convention Center last November. Who was in the audience? People from Oracle. That led to meeting one of the top women leaders in Oracle. I had a conversation. We had several Zoom meetings in January. Did a talk for them in March. That's led to another one that will be taking place in 2 weeks, and potentially more work as a result of it.
Yeah, I mean, everything is
So that's connecting the dots. That's what called connecting the dot. That's what speaking can do. And Lorraine said it. If you're just starting, start at the local level. You got to start somewhere. You're not going to walk onto an industry stage immediately. You got to start and build, get your feet wet, get some things behind you, get some experience, get some of that credibility and accolades, and then go to the next step and keep climbing from there.
Yeah, it sounds like a stepping stone, process. And, what I see is with the new access people have to live streaming and being cost and time efficient for everybody involved. When I started full-time in LinkedIn about 3 years ago, I mean, I was doing the posting, the liking, the commenting, everything, building connections. I mean, doing great in numbers, but I was just one of many. And to break free, you have to elevate away instead of going against the loud, the salesy, the scammy. That's typical part of the process if you're in the crowd, to finding your own audience. And what I have learned by doing this so often is what happens to people who get on. There's been at least 15 people, if not more, that never did a live stream, never did anything, and now have their own shows. Now are able to expand their audience by being known to other people's audiences. And the other thing is, someone who shows up on this show or a show like it gets invited to all those other shows, right? Because if 12, 14 people have podcasts or live streams, they're always looking to optimize the talent they bring on, the experience, because you're really judged a lot by who you associate with and how you show up with other people. So I would advocate starting, like Christopher and Lorraine says, wherever you can get the experience and practice. In the beginning, you're the one who has to generate value and get proficient. The audience isn't ready for you, or at least the audience you want to serve. So why not start where you're at? Leslie comes back with repetition, the first law of learning, and auto-suggestion, a principle of success. Here we go with Debbie. Connecting the dots, Christopher. I need to get intentional on that aspect of previous work. Thank you. Lorraine, we're coming up with all kinds of different thoughts relating to speaking. So I guess we picked a pretty good word. What can you layer on?
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to say when it comes to speaking, starting out locally, sometimes it's a matter you could like join a networking group, okay? And sometimes these networking groups have like these 10-minute presentations that you can do. And you can actually, at the same time as networking, give your 10-minute presentation, and that will give you a lot of experience too. And I did that a lot. I mean, just the matter of giving like a 30-second commercial, and then after a while you get really clear on who you are and who you're serving. Then you can come up with a little presentation. And one thing that helped me a lot is, again, I joined a mastermind that helps speakers. And one of the things that I got to do in there was give a 10-minute and a 20-minute presentation. Plus, I also did my one sheet, which is just a tool that you can put on your website that they can download and see what you can. A one sheet just gives all the information, your topics that you speak on, some pictures, everything, and you can send that out, and then people can be the judges if they want to hire you or not.
Great.
And I shouldn't say hire, because I mean, Chris makes money speaking, but most of my speaking engagements have been totally free. However, they bring me clients. So a little bit different. So, I'm not getting a $30,000 stipend or whatever. But anyways, that's what I love to say.
Well, and I think what you bring out so well just there, Lorraine, is you have to enjoy whatever it is you're getting into, because that's going to be the thing that keeps you going. When if it was just, I'm not making nothing, or I'm spending a lot of time, or I'm seeing other people do so well and I'm not there, it's about doing something you would do for free if given the opportunity. And then if you get really good at it, and getting good at it is getting comfortable with it, because your audience can read your energy. They say it's always your music people hear first and not your words, right? So if you're excited, enthusiastic, happy, and genuinely being that, people relate to that more than the intellectual academic side. They say facts tell, stories sell. And, everybody wants to hear your story, not want to hear your judgment of their story. Or there's too much presumption going in a lot of times that someone just assumes. And I think Lorraine made that great point earlier, is get to know your audience, right? If someone comes in early, have a chance to relate to them. I know when I first started in my retail business, when I had nothing, all I had was whoever came in, right? And that person was the most important person in the world, and getting to know why they showed up, how they heard about us, whatever, was valuable, because, in a sense, you're buying some vowels before you solve the puzzle. So, Christopher, it sounds like, you've had plenty of experience. But also technology has been everybody's friend who has been able to leverage it, now with AI, now with live streaming. And I think one of the keys is there's more to speaking than just doing the speaking, right? It's how do you promote yourself? How do you support yourself? How do you reach out to find value in what you've already done, and either repurposing? How are you seeing and applying technology differently than you used to?
Yeah, it's definitely needed. If you're going to build yourself into an influencer, and it doesn't mean you got to be, it's not about popularity. That's not what we're talking about. What influencer means is, again, that you are now creating value on a continuous basis. That is the content that you share on social media each and every day. Is it consistent? Is it adding value? Is it helping people to move forward? And now they're recognizing, they're coming back to you. It's making sure all your social media channels are in cohesion in terms of your market dominating position or unique value proposition. Many people, matter of fact, I'm onboarding somebody here in about 10 minutes. I have to actually get off in a few minutes after I do, because I have to go back and get ready to,
Oh, that's
where a lot of times people will have one social media profile will be different from the other. And when, especially if you're going to be a speaker, if they're like two different messages, that could work against you. So you got to have that consistency with the messaging across all your social media. And that's through podcasts, radio shows, it could be writing, blogs, books. It could be like what Lorraine said, through networking groups, whether in person or virtual. I belong to 3 high-level networking groups virtually with C-suite and certain people, one called Vistage and so on. So with that being said, that, when you have that consistency, leveraging that content and that value, and it's like you're dripping. Those are all drip. It's like, if you ever heard of a drip campaign, everyone associates that with the email marketing. No, it's all these platforms you're dripping, and the buyer's journey is when people are ready to buy. Not everybody's ready to buy now. And many people miss out on converting more of their lead gen because they're trying to get people on the first go around. It happens over the buyer's journey. You'll convert more people on 5 to 12 touches if you have a plan, a fluent strategy in place, and are consistent with your content that's connecting and adding value to them that will convert to business.
Yeah, that's so true and very concise and to the point. And if you want something to work, you got to work it, right?
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you got to put much more in to build momentum, to build top of mind awareness. And the other element, I think people, because you don't know what you don't know, aren't employing their best practices to what they do, right? I mean, I know when I do a newsletter, I do it every day, it gets emailed to everybody in my list, right? When I do a poll, right, I'm getting exposure. Every time LinkedIn goes live, it notifies everybody. So even if, with, let's say, 37,000 connections, only 100, maybe 200 really are in this, let's say, circle of the hour of power. But 35,000 other people, because what's amazing, when I do reach out to connections I haven't talked to in a while, because things have changed now, with this show, they always say, I see you everywhere, right? I haven't talked to them in a year or two, but they're starting to see that. And there's a competitive advantage over, again, familiarity, makes things a lot more comfortable, right? No matter who you see, if you see them over time, they become familiar. The stranger is the one that really lends itself to maybe some concern or fear or whatever it is. So I think, that's so important. Lorraine, it's so cool that we've.
Just to let you know before Lorraine goes, Donald, I might have to
If
drop.
you need to go now, or go now if you want, not a problem.
Yeah, because I have to get back to my office to get ready for 12 o'clock.
Yeah, well, and I want to thank you for all the different things you tried to do to make this as good as you can. I mean, that in itself is more than words can actually describe, because it shows the real person who's trying to build quality and is, thoughtful and respectful of others to want to show up the best way possible. So I think that transfers really well.
My pleasure. And I want to thank you for having me on. And it's a pleasure to be here with Lorraine, and good to see her again. And again, thank you for the opportunity to share our value and our experience with everybody.
Well, thank you. And I hope to have you back and look forward to talking with you in the future.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Christopher.
Bye, everybody.
Much. Well, Lorraine, seems like we covered a lot of ground in a short period of time, with just a simple word like speaker. And I do believe the audience drives so much of our thought and interest that I feel more comfortable addressing a question than tossing out a question. And obviously you're a people person and a person that really enjoys bringing value to others. So what can you say about the gratification that speaking has given you?
Yeah. So one of the things that, when you think about gratification and thankfulness about being able to, talk on big stages, little stages, medium-sized stages, and different podcasts and stuff is the people I meet. I have learned I've been doing a podcast now for 3 years. And once I started bringing on people, it became about them. And I learned so much from each of these individuals that actually helped my business grow. Not only help my business grow, but help me see things differently. And I think that's one thing to be grateful for. I am so sorry. You know, I've
Well,
never
you have a
actually
good
been
one.
I've
know.
never been live for an hour. I'm like, wow. Sorry about that. But one thing I want to say, I want to just piggyback on something because I think it's really important. Is Chris had mentioned, we talked a little bit about social media. Social media happens to be my wheelhouse. And one thing I'm seeing a lot lately, and I just want to, maybe caution people he said, be intentional. And you do have to be intentional. But this is what you have to be intentional with: the people you network with. You want to make sure that the people you're networking with are either people that could be a strategic partner with you, a potential client, or somebody that you could collaborate with. This isn't about, he said, you just don't want to randomly just be doing posts. Okay. You want to be strategically collecting people, not like you're trunk or treating or trick or treating, seriously. And yeah, I'm going to be having a trunk or treat, participating in it. So I've got that on my mind right now. But long story short is you want to just make sure that when you're spending time networking online, that you're connecting with the right people. And I know how that goes for a lot of people. You go online and then all of a sudden you're watching a lot of reels. Or TikTok, you're on TikTok. So, behave yourself.
Well, Lorraine, those are wonderful points, and I truly mean that. And when people can get to just the people side and support the people side, that's the foundation. Now you're building on rock instead of sand. And strategic is everything. And masterminding is everything. In a sense, this is a collective mastermind that shows up every day. And like I say, this gets better if every person gets better in the group, because they raise their awareness of what they learned. They now are asking more pertinent, important questions. The more sophisticated I find people to be in their knowledge of what you're talking about, the easier it is to talk to them, right? If someone's been doing something over and over, they're probably know more about it than you do, that specific thing. And now you learn from them. And I think it's constantly sharing, learning. There's no taking away. There's no plus and minus, right? Everybody gets lifted together based on getting smarter, more comfortable, and achieving some level of success, right? I think part of any initiative, including speaking, is getting a win, getting somebody to applaud you, getting someone to write you a letter or send you a text or whatever. You helped me, you changed this, whatever the case. Now you have purpose beyond yourself. And if you have a big enough collective group, you need to be there for them and they need to be there for each other and you. And there's a quality codependency that ratchets up together. So, and actually in that vein, I'm thinking about just doing something like a weekly mastermind LinkedIn best practices for something like $97 a month or something. So everybody could get better working with something and working with others. So, I'm just looking to take it up another notch for people that says, I could use insights into what I'm not doing, evaluate what I am doing, being able to share with others. So, I can't say enough of the quality of the people. Let me just get some more comments before we finish up. Back of the room sales, another benefit of being on any size stage. So true. Harvey's here. Harvey had a very interesting show. He just started the franchise show. Harvey's out in England. Sorry, I'm late. Want to join after my meeting. So always happy to have you, Harvey. Debbie says, do you feel there's one social network to spend the most energy? I'll throw that to Lorraine in a second. Natalie says, thank you for this great conversation. Got to run. And then finishing up, Lorraine, what do you suggest on finding a reputable platform? So I think those two questions kind of come together. Is what is your favorite platform, I would suppose. And that would answer the second question, I think, to some extent also.
Yeah, 100%. If you are B2B, you need to be spending time on LinkedIn and not just posting or not just, sending out spam notices to other people's inboxes, but truly getting to know people. And that's the best way to network on LinkedIn. People are tired of the spam. Honestly, 3 paragraphs, I'm not going to read it. Just not.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you speak for about everybody when you say that. You connect with somebody and you get a 6 paragraph. I can get you lead generation. I mean, it's like, it just kind of like it steals your attention, steals where you were thinking. And now you got to dismiss it and think about what you just dismissed. So, I mean, it's really a time suck and it's a terrible distraction. So many people don't understand what they're interrupting. They're not probably going to get a sale, but they also left a little bit more damage behind than they had to. And that's why I think Lorraine makes such a great point. Work with the people you're working with. Work closer. I'd rather do more with less people than less with more people and build deeper, richer relationships. And it's that masterminding collective thought that says, wow, that was a piece I was missing, or that confirms something that I was questioning. And then everybody gets dusted off and gets back again. And I think that's how one can scale, is stair-stepping things. Understanding that this is the beginning, and then once this is finished, whenever that is, I move to the next level. But you're always going up to the right, in the direction that you're moving, whether it's for yourself or your business. Plus, learning is earning before earning, right? So I think the better you are, the better you're going to be when the next person sees you. And the other question, how good can I get? And what is it going to take me to get there? And usually it's going to take another person, because if you want to focus on core competency, you don't want to have to learn 20 different things that aren't your wheelhouse and you're not that motivated towards. So with that, to close up, Lorraine, this is your first experience. It's been fun from every sort of technical challenge. But, I think what also shows is how people deal with situations that are unfamiliar and in some cases would be challenging to other people, right? And people pick up their clues from you. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Thoughts on tech problems?
No, just thoughts on how you respond to whether it's a tech problem, something.
Yeah, here's the thing is you can't change it. You can't control it. It's going to, it happens all the time. So you just have to, honestly, I know this sounds like, very generic, but seriously, just keep a positive attitude and work through it, because guess what? If you work through it, then the next time you do it, it's going to get better. And then the next time it happens, you're going to know how to handle it. So, tech problems happen and it all depends. Like if it was raining today where I am, I would probably have the same tech problems.
Well, that's and I think that's so important, because what happens to you happens to people like you, happens all the time. What it also says is don't be dependent on one situation, that if there's an issue, that's it for you. If you had a program that was every 6 months and it's not returning for 6 months, if your live doesn't work, if somebody else doesn't work, that's pretty much the end. And it gets more challenging when you're doing it in front of a live audience, right? That's why getting here early is always easier, because I know Christopher had to go through 5 different, change your browser, go on, get off. He eventually left his house, went out and drove away and to get a better connection. But, I think everybody who's gone through it understands it too, right? So the people you're most concerned with, making frustrated that the program didn't go. They've been in many programs like that. And, you know, like Lorraine says, all you can do is all you can do, right? And that's all you can do. So with that said, I want to thank everybody. You know, what I am encouraged is so many people always say, here's what I'm going to start doing. Here's what I'm initiating. Here's my new thing. And when people keep doing more, bigger, better, faster, you know, everybody really comes to the realization that if they can do it, I can do it. I mean, you can look at Christopher and Lorraine and say, yeah, they can talk about it because they're professional and they're experienced, but everybody started the same way the first time, right? Didn't know anything more. And I think Lorraine made a great point, because the most frustrating lessons you learn are typically the ones that burn deeper inside of you, right? And then maybe a day later you say, I knew, now the glitch I understand. Next time I'll be aware of it. Or just like Lorraine says, sometimes you got to turn off and turn on, right? Something as simple as that. So anyways, I can't thank Lorraine enough. I'm thanking Christopher for being here also. He's just a gem of a speaker, and so is Lorraine. And you know, the other thing, I'm always more into the good a person is than just what they do. And why not have it both ways, right? Do good and be a go-giver, you know, to Bob Burg's book. So Lorraine, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure. I know the audience gained so much from you. Wishing everybody a beautiful day. Come back tomorrow, 23 hours from now. We'll do it again. Tomorrow we've got Kelly and we've got Elizabeth Falloon. And then Friday we got a great, well, we always have great people, but Friday we've got a new individual, and his name is Todd DeWitt. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's got about 91,000 connections, which I'm not saying numbers by themselves mean that much, but he is an expert. He's a past professor, dean. He has so many classes out there. I think he's got 40 different classes that people purchase online, and one wonderful individual doing some great things. And I think we'll all learn a lot from him. Beverly's here Saturday, Sarah's here Sunday, on and on. So thank you, Lorraine. Thank you, audience.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day, and we'll talk again. Take care.